Hi there, this is Jacob with JMK. I'm doing part 6 of our Eagle tutorial series. I've done a few other different recordings on things like building a schematic, doing layouts, exporting, or rather uploading to OshPark. And today we are going to be doing a quick tutorial, which will probably not end up being quick, on how to work with our libraries. Now, I should note here, this is a bit later than I've done my other tutorials, and we've upgraded Eagle to 6.4.0 now. This is the light edition on this computer that I have here. So that's what I'm working in. If you have either a newer or older version, it may not work quite the same, but this is how it's currently working with this version. So we accomplished building this layout. Kind of rat's nest this layout. The last time I was doing a tutorial, this is what we came up with, and then we uploaded this to OshPark. Today, I have lots of tips and tricks to share, but today specifically what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be working on how to edit a part in those libraries. So our libraries menu back in our main window here is right up at the top when you have things oriented the way that I do. So here's our demo project layouts here, and here's my libraries. In one of our other tutorials I showed you about design rules. So these are just these are our various control parameters. We've got scripts and cam jobs and other things here. So most of the time all we ever really do with libraries is we figure out how to use none and select a library and use all. What I'm going to show you is how to load a library. So for example, one of the things we can do here is we can go to the MadBean forum and search MadBean library. Let's see what comes up here. Let's see here. Here you go. Here's the most current version of the MadBean library. It's found in the MedBird projects and tutorials. Anyway, so here we are. I'm going to download this file. You can see it comes up right here. Clear that. Close these windows down. And when I go to my downloads here, it should be right up here at the top. Drag and drop this right onto the hard drive right here. MadBean 2012-1. So here's our library. I'm going to type demo in after 2012 and put some spaces in because I'm like that. Okay, so here we go. MadBean 2012 demo library. So once we've got a library that we want to load in, what we need to do is find how to get it into this right here. Just having it on our computer doesn't mean it's automatically loaded in. So the first thing you're going to need to do is find your applications. Obviously, I'm working on a Mac, so this would be different on different computers. Now notice that I've got like 4 versions of Eagle here. 5 actually. Eagle 6.0, 6.2, 6.3, 6.4. What you need to do is figure out which version, which folder your copy of Eagle looks for when it looks for a new library. So what you need to do is you go to Eagle and you go to your directories right here. And you can see here in my library, where it's looking for applications 6.2 LBR. Look at that. It's looking for things in the 6.2 folder, right? So right here, we go to 6.2, and we go to the LBR file folder, and here we have a bunch of different folders. So as you can see here, what's happened is I've got a bunch of different folders being accessed here. 6.2 LBR MadBean 2012, 6.2 LBR MadBean library, 6.2 LBR JMK library. So we go farther in here, we've got the Eagle library. This one is in a different folder, Eagle, and we've got Eagle library. So in the way I've got it mine set up is that this looks for individual folders, and when I have, say for example, here I've got a new folder to add in, what I've got set up is it's going to look for a specific folder. So for me, I'm going to do this. I'm going to put this MadBean 2012 demo library right into the 6.2 library file. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell my directory here to browse. I'm going to go to Applications, Eagle 6.2, Library, MadBean 2012 demo. Right there, I'm going to choose it. And see that right there is it's found. It's looking for that. When I press OK here, see, notice what happens in my Eagle 6.4 thing is I open this up. Now look at that. I've got a library right there, MadBean 2012 demo. And I've got that library loaded up. All right. So now that that's loaded in there, we can go back to that folder, and I'm going to find it again. Applications, 6.2, LBR, and we've got a whole lot of parts. Now notice here, as I look here, we've got a bunch of different parts. Capacitors-film.lbr, diodes.lbr, enclosures.lbr. When we open up in our main control window here, we've got those same parts, Belton.lbr, pedal sync module footprint, capacitors film, diodes LBR. So these, look, if you notice, you'll see that all these correspond with these individual parts. If we were to use none, and then that's another thing I should show you about how to control which library you're currently using, is you right click on the libraries and press use none, and then you can find a library you want to use, right click and say use all. Notice here now all these little green dot lights come up. That means it's being used. You can also choose an individual part and say don't use. See that? Use. Right? And then you can turn it back on again. Use. So as we go, you can actually really customize your library by say going into your own library that you create, which I'll show you in a second, and using that one part while using the rest of, say, the original MadBean library. So I've got my part loaded, and I'll show you this Eagle library. The stock library that comes with Eagle is ginormous. There's tons and tons of parts in here. And this becomes really, really handy to have as a backup. And as you get to be proficient with editing parts, you'll go through this and be like, oh, that's a cool part. Only the pads are the wrong size or something else is wrong with it. Now, if I found a part in here, I don't know, something strange here. Let's go capacitor WeMelt library. See that? If I wanted to use that in my MadBean library, what I would need to do is I'd need to go into the stock library here, find capacitors WEMA, C-O-N. So capacitor WEMA.library. Okay, so now what I need to do is I can right click and then I can copy this, copy, or I can drag and drop. So if I remove it from that library, now it is no longer in existence in the stock library. So I'm going to close this and then open it again. And if I go here, capacitor WEMA, it's still here, but if I wanted to use it, oh, it's still connected somehow. Okay, so I'm going to update. See there, it's going to give me some problems. Okay, long story short, you can drag and drop it out, right? Or you can copy it. I'm going to copy it over so that way it doesn't disappear from my stock library. And as I go into the 2012 demo, I'm going to paste the item, and now I have that in there. So as I open up my MadBean 2012 capacitor WEMA.library.lbr right there. So I now have the WEMA library in with my demo library that I was just editing. If I open up the stock library, it should still be there. capacitor, WEMA. Okay, so you can add parts from one library to another. This is also handy because you can search online for parts. So for example, I could go with Belton Reverb Live Eagle Library. Let's see what comes up. Yeah. Let's see here what happens. Anyway, long story short, you could find in here, a library part. So, example, part library for Eagle PCB. Let's see what comes up here. See, look at that, Belton.lbr. Now I can take that from my downloads folder, drag, drop, and I can add this to my MadBean demo. It's already in there, but do you see how that works? You can now add a library or a library part to your personal library. Another thing you can do is, like I've done here, I've got a JMK library. You can actually, new folder, create your own library. Let's call it a demo library, just for the sake of the fact that we're working with the demo project. Keep everything simple. So I can now take this, right, copy, paste, right, and then again go into my directories in Eagle and add this library, new library. This is very handy because you may find that you're not using a lot of the parts in, say, the Gus Markov, the MadBean, the whatever stock library. If you're not using parts, get rid of them and create your own. You don't need to use this library and this library if you're trying to get parts out of both of them. Create your own library and then just copy in the parts that you're using. The hazard with that is that sometimes you may edit a library part in here, and then when you go to use it in a different library, it is not got the same pad spacing, so you have to be very sure that what you're using is what you're always going to be using, and be ready to make edits to a part in another library if for some reason you're using that. Alrighty, so as we go back into Eagle here, we're going to open up our demo project here, double-sided rat, and as you can see, we get our schematic and we get our PCB. So one of the things that you need to note is that if we look here as we work on our schematic here, when I add a part here, you can see I've got a whole bunch of stuff here that's being used. Now what I want to do is I want to be using our new MadBean 2012 demo library. So what I need to do here is I need to go to my libraries and select I don't know why this isn't working here. Use none. Okay, so now when I switch back to here, I add a part, there's no parts here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this library, use all. And then what happens here is as I, that's the wrong button. I wanted to press this one here. Shrink this down a bit so that, make sure it's in the middle of the window. When I now go add a part here, now see here, all the parts that were in my MadBean 2012 demo module, including the WEMA capacitor, are available to me. One other thing I can do here is as I say add a part, like a WEMA capacitor here, we should be able to see the size, the symbol, and the package here. So we've got a 5-4 size. Right, we add this here. Right, you can see on our layout. Oops, put my screen into sleep. Sorry. We add a part and it's right there. Now, if I switch back to my schematic here, if I actually edit this part, I can do with replace, and I can replace it with that part. So then now when you look on here, you can see a part right there has been replaced by a WEMA capacitor of that particular size and shape. Now, this is great if you're using a library that has, I'm just going to undo everything I just did there so that nothing is messed up. This is great as long as you're doing that. But let's say, for example, as we look at here, we decide that for whatever reason, our potentiometer pad spacing here is incorrect, or the drill hole size or the pad size is not the correct size. How do you deal with that? Well, you have to, if you're not familiar with how to change parts, what ends up happening is you search for a part to replace it. This is there's a famous problem with the Gauss Markov libraries, which are very popular for Eagle. I'll show you where you get them. Gauss Markov Eagle. Yeah, see right there, the top Google hit is Eagle Library, right? Right, if we go here, the Gauss Markov DIY effects library is the oldest publicly available one. And essentially what this guy did, screen name Gauss Markov, he went through the classic stock library and eliminated all the unnecessary parts and did a slight amount of editing to some of the useful parts. You can see the list right here, right? So he went through and sort of sorted it for everybody. This is great, except that when he did his sorting, you were stuck with the way that he edited those parts, or the size and the pad size and the drill hole size that were sort of defaulted into that system. So on this library, this has already been done. But what I'm going to show you is how you actually go in and edit it for yourself, because you may find these ones too big. You maybe want to use smaller ones. You may find that any of these parts need to be adjusted in some way to meet with your personal specifications. I'm going to get rid of this. It's asking me to save because I'm in a new version. I just did my update recently. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to the MadBean 2012 demo library, and I'm going to find potentiometers.lbr. And when I double click that, see here I'm in my libraries menu, and I double click that, a new window pops up here, right? And it's I've opened the library. And on the left here, the only button we have is an edit button. And up at the top, we have some new buttons that we're not familiar with, and then some of our classic buttons that we will be familiar with. Okay? These buttons are fairly important. Essentially, they are, from left to right, edit a device, edit a package, and edit a symbol. These are the three elements to every part. Okay? The device is the overall thing that we're editing. So, for example, right here, if you open up the potentiometers, so you can see this symbol here corresponds with it. Our device is the pots. So when we go into our project and we add a pot, you're adding a pot. And then inside the pot device, we have options. In some parts, we've got lots of devices, right? So each device, see D035 for the diodes, D041, correspond with a different combination of packages and symbols. Now, to differentiate between package and symbol is what you get for your schematic. So when you look at your schematic, these symbols are the elements of the device that correspond with your symbol options. Go back to here, symbols. Okay. The package is the part of the device that corresponds with what you see on your layout. So this is the R1 package, and this is the R1 symbol. R1 is the part, and the device is a resistor. Does that make sense? Okay, so we've got a resistor, which is a device. R1 is the part number. 560R is the part value. This thing right here, the little zigzaggy line, is the symbol. This sort of tubular shape corresponds with the package, and which also includes the pad size and the pad hole, as well as the graphic overlay for your silk screen, as an example, or for your viewing pleasure. Okay? So that's the differences between all of these parts. Let me close these windows. Okay, we don't need all that stuff. So you can press this button here, and it'll ask you to edit a device, or you can go up here and choose your device, choose your package, or choose your symbol. So in the symbol for the pod, so we double click that, what we get is a combination of lines and pins, as well as some text. This is really a simple line-based vector graphics type of situation. With every symbol, you've got some editing you can do. You've got some basic controls. The most common is the line tool. When you select the line tool, you have an option on what level you want to make that line, what sort of shape you want any bends to take. You have some options on your width of line, the style of line, your radius. Now keep in mind, this is just a graphic representation of a part. So symbols for schematics have long been set in some sort of stone. Long before we, do-it-yourself guitar pedal builders started using pots. Pots existed. And this is the symbol, roughly. Some of our basic controls is we've got move, copy, mirror, rotate, group, edit, which gives you options on all sorts of stuff for the properties, paste, delete, name, miter, split. These are common to the symbols you find for when you're doing schematic building or layout. You've also got your graphic editing stuff. You can draw lines. You can make text. You can make circles. You can make arcs, rectangles, polygons. And the most important pins you need, control you need to be aware of is the pins. So when you draw a pin, you select this button right here. And this actually represents a connection point to the rest of the world of circuits. Okay, you have all sorts of options on its orientation, although you can just rotate, right-clicking, or control-clicking on a Mac, so you can see up there it just rotates. And undo. You can choose its shape, like what it looks like. This green end is the end where it connects. The other end right here is what the end point that connects to the rest of it. So this is where the termination point is. This is where it connects to the rest. So you can show what the line should look like, right? You can also control how long it is. So it's almost nothing, very short, a little bit longer, really long. And you can also select whether the name of the pin is visible and what orientation it has. So look there, that pin has a name. So for example, on a pot here, if we go and delete this one here, oops. Oh, I can't connect it. I can't. To duplicate it, what we'd end up with is just this part. So to duplicate that, you would go like here and here, and there you go. Right there. Like it's pretty much duplicated, right? There's some other things you can do in this menu. I don't want to get too advanced here because honestly, I don't always understand it. Really, what I want to focus here is if you needed to edit it edit the pot image here for whatever reason, this is how you get started on doing that. Obviously, there was some really advanced stuff here. If you got into creating parts, you'd need to understand this better because you'd actually have to draw your own schematic. You'd actually have to make your own pin connections. All I can say is if you do desire to do that, there are probably some great tutorials out there. I know I've watched at least one that really helped me. But also, just even opening up a part in your library, you're like, well, no, don't save that. Open up our diodes here, and if you look at the diode symbol here, you learn something. Just pressing the info button and looking at this pin, this is the anode A, direction, length, function, learning about what these things mean will be a big help too. All right, so let's go back to our potentiometers library, and we're going to look at, now that we've looked at the schematic symbol, we should look at our device. So I'm going to click device, and it gives me an option list. And unlike our device, we're looking at packages here. Unlike our device and symbol menu pot, we are now looking at a list. We can know, because of some basic knowledge, what these mean. For example, this is a 9mm pot. This is a 16mm pot. This is a center mount 16mm pot. Here's a trim pot. It's just the pads. We can really open up these things and take a look at them. So, like for example, here's a device, a package view of a 16mm pot. If we look at this carefully, you'll see that there's a basic graphic representation, and then down here there's these green parts that are the pads, and we've got some text. We've also got a number here which corresponds with the pad, and it will help determine where pad lug number 1 of the potentiometer would be on both your schematic and on your layout. So if we open up here 9mm, you can see we get a totally different graphic image, but we still have the 3 pads, and they're all numbered, as well as some other text. If we open up a different package, here's a very simple, instead of a 1 for this pad here, we've got a 3. Here's another one. Again, graphic interface name. So we've got some similarities between all of them. If we had an issue with one of these, like for example, I can already tell you that this potentiometer image has an issue. One of the things that we know is that from actual parts themselves, PCB mount pot is actually 5/8 of an inch from the center of the pin to the center of the center of the second lug here to the center of the shaft, the pot shaft. And if we make a line from here, well, it won't let me because of course my grid is wrong. I gotta select my grid. I want half grid. Nope, too tight. My grid. And zoom in here. If I were to make a line from the center of this pot and then down to the center of this lug and then press the info tool on that part, I've got a length of 575. If I were to actually take 5 divided by 8, I've got 0.625 or 625 mils. So it's actually too small from the center of the lug to the center of the pot, which means that we can edit this device so that it would be correct. There's a few different ways to do that. The first is to take the move tool and to just take apart and move it like that, right? And then you'd sort of have to adjust all of them, right? It can make the pot look real weird. Another way is to select your move tool and then select your group tool and move a group. This is actually probably the most effective way to do it. And because my cursor is right there, I can see up in the top corner there, 650. I want it actually a little bit lower there. I want it at 625. Now, the center there is 625 from the center of the lug, which, going back to our calculator, is precisely what we need. Okay. Last but not least, what you got to do is you got to save your editing. Another thing you can do while you're here is you can also edit your pads. So I just selected the info tool and selected pad here. You can see that the green pad there gets a little bit highlighted. And we learned some things. Its name is 3, so it's lug 3. Its position is minus 200 by 0, so that means it's 200 to the left of that one. 200 mils, 0.2 inches. This is important because you need to realize that if, say, for example, we wanted it at 0.250, we could go in here, type 250, press OK, and it's moved. Now, my graphics aren't correct anymore, so I can move these. Look at that. I just moved the whole pad over. I'm going to undo all that because we know that it's actually supposed to be 0.2 inches. But you see here, just by selecting the info tool on the pad itself, we get a bunch of different control. We can move this up 100, apply it, see that? Now it's moved around. I'm going to undo that. Oh, 0, apply. Okay. We also know the diameter of that pad is 100. It's referring to mils because that's the current scale we're on. If I get out of here and I go to mils, or millimeters, and press OK, now when I select info on that part, now we know it's 2.54 inches, or millimeters, in diameter, and 1.4 in the drill size. I'm going to go back to mils because that's my favorite. My secondary button isn't working great. Go to my grid because I'm in mils there. I like working in mils because it's nice even numbers, and I think in inches, not in millimeters. So let's say, for example, I wanted to make this 110. Now I can press apply, and you see the pad just got a little bit bigger. I'm going to make the drill size an even 55, which doesn't really show a lot of graphic interface, but I could actually make it, let's say, 25. And I've just made that drill size very small. Go back to 55, apply it. So now I've got 55 by 110. So it's 110 round, and the drill size is exactly half of that. So really, really simple. I could go to 150, which is similar. And you can see the pad gets smaller, but the hole also gets a little bit smaller. I can go to 160 or 200. Pad's huge, drill size stays the same. You can also control the shape: square, round, octagon, long. Get quite a bit of control on these pads. You can also control whether it has thermals, whether it has stop against polygons. I don't know what first precisely does, but we can maybe check, see if we've got... no, that's not it. That's what I want. I want this. Oh, it hasn't got first applied, but I'm going to make my changes universal. 110 and 55. Press OK. Changes the size of that. I'm also able to do that from the properties menu right here. I can go to diameter and select my own. Just click on this pad, automatically makes that changes, and I can do that with drill as well. Select 55, press OK, and press this. There we go. Drill size is now 55. I'm going to save it, and that keeps me in charge of things. I'm going to look closely at my graphic stuff, the silk screen. Now, if you'll notice, it's pretty close to these pads. What if I wanted to change some things here? I could actually go in here and totally change the imagery stuff. Delete that one. What if I wanted to, instead of having the way it has been set up, well, I just use the delete tool to delete all those lines. What if I wanted to now create a line that went all the way around these parts, but just didn't go around the top like this? Stop it there. There we go. So now it's also farther away from the pads because of the grid size that I have. My lines snap to the grids that I have. I could, for example, go to a smaller grid size, go half grid, which is 12.5 mils. And I can move this line closer on the bottom, but keep the sidelines farther, or put them closer. Why don't I put them closer? I'm going to extend this line up a bit. I can have a lot of control over these lines as well. One thing that's really handy to do is to control your layers when you're doing things on silkscreen. In particular, the top place is or bottom place is the primary silkscreen layer, and a names layer is a secondary one. The origins is not, the values is not. And again, if you're making a single-sided layout or sending something by Gerbers to a fab house, you're really in control of the export image. So if I were to specify this line was on the top place line, so that would get printed. But if I zoom out here a bit and I specify this line is on the bottom place line, and I hide the bottom place layer when it's silk screened, what ends up happening is this line right here gets printed, but all this stuff gets hidden. And this is another thing you can do by properties. You can press layer here, and I'm going to switch everything to the bottom place that needs to be. So for example, this line, this line, this line, all of these lines that I'm touching are now getting switched. If they weren't already there, they are now on the bottom. And I can check this by going to my layers here and then selecting top place. Can't see top place, but see the name and that number went away. Now if I switch it, go hide the bottom place and show the top place, all that other graphic stuff is gone, right? If I show the bottom place, everything's back. Now I can go back to my layer here, hide the bottom place, or switch stuff to the top place. I want to switch this line, this line, this line. And I hide my bottom place, and those lines are there. So this allows you to really have a lot of control over what gets shown on your silk screen. For example, names and pad numbers. Like I can take this pad number here and move it over here or over here, for example. Which gives you a lot of control over all sorts of things. You can also change the size of things. Like check it out. Check out this. It's that pad number 1. The size is 40. Let's make it 25. Now it's tiny, which is big enough. But now it's really hidden by putting it there. It doesn't take up much of the silkscreen space. If you're always resizing stuff on a part for names for your silkscreen layer, just do it once. Go into your part, edit the part, like that. I always have my names of pots sized at 35 mils. So what I do here is I just come in here, save it. Now every time I create a new part, this is how it's set up. See how that works? Last I'm going to show you here is our devices. I'm going to go into here and I'll show you the relationship between the symbols and the package. So what I can do is I can actually create a new device here and then call it 16 millimeter pot. It's all one word. It doesn't allow you spaces, although you can do dashes. And I'm going to press OK. So it's going to say to create new device. Yes. the reason I'm creating a new device is because this is actually something that's fairly useful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, first of all, go to this. You have a smaller number of tools available. The add tool goes to your list of symbols and shows you what you have. So if we created a new symbol, that would be available here, but I didn't. So I'm going to use the old symbol for pot. And I can rotate it around. I think I can. Nope, I can't. You can just take it and put it here. Now notice the crosshairs here. That's where the middle of your symbol will be. So I'm going to place it down here, and we can zoom in and see right there. We've got 3 pins here. 1, 2, 3. And here's our symbol. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new package. I've got a couple different options here from our packages. And I'm going to take my 16 millimeter pot, which I've edited, and I'm going to add it. Press OK. Now, most people get confused at this part. I certainly did. The key here is that now that you've got this device loaded and the symbol loaded, you have to connect the pads to the pins. If the pads and the pins aren't connected, you can add this to your schematic, but it won't actually connect in your layout. To do this, what we do is we take the connect button, and what it does is it pulls up a list. And what it shows us here is that our pins on the symbol, entitled 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, and it shows us the pads from our device, or sorry, package. Pad 1, pad 2, pad 3, which were named, and we connect them. So 1 connects to 1. That's connecting this pad or pin here with this pad here. We connect 2, and we connect 3. Once that's done, you press OK, and see the little error marker is now turned into a check mark. We can entitle this, which takes the variant, and say, we'll say PCB mount. Okay, so there we go. We've got a prefix on this right here. We can double click. We can edit the variant by just say rename PCB mount. And there we go. So we can use multiple devices here. So for example, I could now create a new 9 millimeter pot, and it's not connected yet, but we can also create a new 16 millimeter pot. The package variant has already been defined. So because of that, I can add multiple ones. This is why you would create a new device, is if, for example, you had a resistor or a capacitor or a transistor or something like that, which needed, which used the same package or used the same symbol, but used a different pin connection. Transistors are a really obvious one, or an IC is a really obvious one. So if you had 3 pins on a transistor, and for a 2N5088, you connected this pin to that pad, and this pin to that pad, and this pin to that pad, but then you created a 50, I don't know, something else, and now this pad connects to the middle, this pin connects to the middle pad. You have to create a new device to connect the symbol and I'm gonna delete this. Anyway, so you need a new device to connect an old symbol and an old device or package into a new configuration of pins and pads. That's why this menu is so important. You can't just create symbols or packages. You have to actually create individual devices, which are a connection between the pins and the pads. And once those are all connected, you're good to go. So I've saved this. That's important. And then you close it. And once that's done, you're good. I'm going to go back into our projects here and go to our demo project and open up our demo wrap. So what I'm going to do here is go back to our schematic view. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the replace button, and which will ask me which part. I'm going to go to the 60 miller pot that I just added to this created a new device for it. And I'm going to press this, and I'm going to press this, and I'm going to press this one. So obviously our graphic interface is a little bit different, so it's actually messed everything up graphically, not schematic wise, but certainly graphically. So once all these connections, all those changes are done, notice it didn't change the name or the value, it just changed the symbol a little bit. And as we go now to this, check it out. The pads are a little bit bigger, the numbers in a different spot, our graphic interface is a little bit different. As I press my rat's nest button, right? Now I go to my layers. If I get rid of the bottom place layer, hides those but leaves the line that I created around those pads. And if I put the bottom place back in, there we go. If I go to package, I select one of these pots, notice that that's the only option available to me. That's where adding multiple devices to or multiple packages in a device becomes handy. Because in our old pots, let's undo a whole bunch of things here. Look at this. So if I go to the package function on this pot, I have a whole bunch of different options. That's because there are multiple devices or multiple packages and all connected to the same symbol in our device under this part. So if you want to have multiple packages, then that's what you need to do. So yeah, this becomes really, really handy, mostly when you're just, this part, the graphic interface isn't quite right for my layout. The pad size is a little bit too small when I'm doing, say, a single-sided layout, and I need my pad to be a little bit bigger because my drill hole size just about removes all of the actual pad and then it disappears. Or if you got a bunch of boards back from Osh Park and you can't actually fit your leads through the holes, you have to edit your parts for try number 2 and that sort of stuff. So I realized that this has been a long sort of tutorial, that ultimately this has probably gone into too much information range, but what I hope that you learned here is that when you these library things are not as complicated or as scary as you might have assumed. That editing parts is actually a lot more simple, and when you edit parts, you really gain a lot of control on the finished product. At first, I found it really intimidating in the sense that I thought this was only for experts, but in reality, if you know just a little bit, you're dangerous in some ways, and in other ways, you're really useful to yourself and to others. So hopefully this showed you a little bit of that, and as you get more advanced in how to do layouts and things like that, you can really begin to see the effects in your finished products. So anyway, thanks a lot for watching. Catch our other tutorials that are available through the MadBean website, and hope to be able to show you some more cool things soon. Some upcoming demos might include some of the advanced tips and tricks that I'll show you. I'll use this layout again to sort of show how I might do some other things that become really, really useful when you're doing more advanced layouts, or just creating a more, some of the things that I missed when I did this, because it's a very simple schematic and it's a very simple layout. What I'm going to do is I'm going to load in a more advanced circuit and show you from start to finish how I might go about laying it out. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching. We'll hope to see you again soon.